Director Koji Shirayoshi's found footage film Occult is the prime example that you don't need a big budget for an effective experience. This movie had me paranoid over Microsoft Paint squiggles. It is made by the same guy who made Noroi the Curse, so you know I had at least some expectations. The movie starts out with footage of a stabbing by a presumed mentally insane man, as he carves what looks like some sort of sigil on a man's back. The attacker then jumps off a near cliffside and disappears. This man, Eno, is the focus of the film, as he claims to have been given some kind of power from this marking. A film crew then records his daily life to see if these claims of miracles and powers are true. With further research by the film crew, they discovered the attacker had similar markings on his body before the event. With the premise now out of the way, I can finally gush over how cool this movie really is. This movie is a masterclass at setting up mysteries that are then later used to build tension and then executes horror through that tension by subverting your expectations with visual absurdness to varying degrees. As I've said, this film is low budget and doesn't have the frills of high dollar CGI and practical effects. But what intrigues me the most is that even with these tremendously bad special effects, the film still uses it to its advantage and creates genuinely scary moments through its absurdness. Something that's actually not too uncommon with J-horror. My mind immediately goes to the classic House in this regard, but for a Western example of this, think Evil Dead. So Eno continues to see miracles which forewarn him about specific events. For example, there's a point in the movie where these miracles let him predict that someone will get hit by a car. Anyways, as the crew continues to film Eno's various miracles, they also catch glimpses of his day-to-day life. Through this, we discover he's out of work and presumably poor, working temporary jobs and sleeping in internet cafes just to get by. The crew eventually allows Eno to sleep in their office and pay him for every miracle they capture on camera. These can be anything, objects being pushed off a table to these weird, admittingly cheap-looking black apparitions. Eno himself is an odd, socially detached young man. I mean, give him a break, he did get an alien slave tattoo. Who wouldn't be a little weird after something like that? Eno's a nice enough young man, though surely harmless. Eventually in the film, we learn a little bit more about Eno's mark. Apparently it's the mark of some sort of deity called the Leech child, who gets his name from apparently being born limbless. As the film progresses, the crew search through Eno's things and realize that he might not be as poor as he lets on. Eno's actually saved quite a bit of cash. One of the filmmakers decides to confront Eno alone about this, as he rightly questions Eno's intentions. He lies to Eno, telling him that even if what he's planning is antisocial, he'd still want to cooperate with him. This gets Eno to spill the beans. Eno tells him that since he's received his mark, he's been given direction from the entity to commit a mass that will result in the slain going to heaven. Sorry for the long plot dump, but it had to be done, so you guys can fully understand the scares that we're about to discuss. So, the scene starts with the cameraman admitting to Eno that he tricked him so that he could know his true intentions. And Eno is obviously pissed. Otaku crashes out. Eno argues that there's no issue with this because he's taking them all to heaven. Eno then threatens the filmmaker that if he tries to stop him, the greater power will punish him. Eno then attacks the filmmaker and drags him outside into an alley, berating him because of how he tricked Eno. Eno then suddenly stops and starts pointing to the sky. As the camera pans, we see this jellyfish-like spirit. As we follow the camera back down, Eno is staring back at us in a sinister way. In fear, the cameraman looks away and then looks back to see Eno's head is now replaced with squirming leeches. Eno then relents, going back to normal, and reminds the cameraman of his marking on his leg, convincing him of his duty to help pull off this. This scene is amazing, and how it's able to make the scare work despite the budget, through smart camera movement and subverting expectations. Just Man, I love when pure craft shines through. When Eno warns the filmmaker of going against the wishes of the entity, it builds dread in our hearts through Eno's spacey demeanor. And as we leave into the alley with the genre staple shaky cam, waiting for Eno to harm the camera guy, it all abruptly stops. Our expectations of the scare get subverted 3 times because one just isn't enough. And this constant and quick subverting keeps us in this tailspin of this schizophrenic anxiety. Eno points to the spirit, with the cheap visuals actually lending to the intangibility of the creature. As the camera pans back down, bam, the scare's not over. We see Eno's evil intent as if it's the spirit that's directing him. We turn away and then back to see the leeches superimposed over his head like something out of Twin Peaks, just long enough to where we can't notice how cheap the effect is, or we do notice and it just unsettles us even more through the absurdness of it all. I love this scene. So after this encounter, the cameraman is now on board with Eno's plan. They then start making preparations for the massacre by buying materials to make a... After getting the materials from the store, they are confronted by a mysterious man, warning them that they might not fully understand what they're about to do. On the day of the... We see Eno and the cameraman killing time with various activities, as the tension keeps building in anticipation of what's about to happen. The crows are acting strange in Shibuya. Before Eno enters the crowd to do his deed, he offers to pay the cameraman back the 100 yen that he bummed off of him earlier in the film. Then, the cameraman tells Eno that he can send back the 100 yen and the camera footage once he goes to the other side. As Eno enters the crowd, the cameraman runs away in fear, but is then confronted by their female coworker who's been tailing them, trying to figure out what they've been up to. As she tries to call the cops, we see the aftermath. The cameraman is convicted for complicity. We then time skip to when he's released from prison. After getting out, he shares a meal with one of his old co-workers who helped with the film. As the two friends reminisce about the past, his 100 yen and his camera drop out of the sky. Eno makes good of his promise. We then see the whole ordeal from Eno's perspective. After the blast, we see that Eno might not have ended up where he thought he was going. 2009's Occult and its house-style version of Hell did leave a haunting impact that stayed with me. A classic story of the road to hell paved with good intentions. Thank you for watching. Take it easy.